Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. Well, not daily, I guess. Usually daily update video. I didn't make a video yesterday because, the price action was very similar to what I was talking about on the day before that, right? We had the inverted head and shoulders pattern setting up. We had this, kind of 109.5 to 210-ish region to break. So nothing really changed on that end, right? But either way, today, obviously, some things did change, right? We did have a beautiful day for NVIDIA, up about 8% on the day, which is pretty damn phenomenal, closing at almost $117 per share, which compared to the market is a beautiful outperformance. So let's talk about what I personally see moving forward. So if you enjoy, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live on YouTube, right? If you're interested, for just $3 a month, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, post updates on Tesla and the broader market. For $5, you get access to all of that, plus NVIDIA daily updates. And there's been a lot of NVIDIA daily updates lately, obviously with this move. So let's talk about this, right? NVIDIA, looking pretty damn good, right? It is approaching now some major resistance, right? 217, 220. We've talked about that many times. It was a massive area of support in the past. Over here, you can see, let me bring out the drawing so you can kind of see, right? Massive area of support, resistance, support, some resistance even on this candle here, and now we're entering back into it right here again. So honestly, wouldn't be surprised to see NVIDIA move a little bit higher, closer to 119, 120. That wouldn't shock me, to be completely honest, as early as tomorrow potentially. But it is entering a massive area of supply now, right? This is where things are going to start getting pretty interesting. It moved up pretty quickly. If you zoom out, you can see the volume profile, right? It definitely went from essentially one volume profile almost to another as it slowly updates. You can see, right? We had a nice little volume spike here, massive empty volume over here, and then we're pretty much entering another territory of volume, pretty much right where we are roughly right now, a little bit higher maybe, right? So that's, I would say there's one thing to be really, not concerned, but cautious about, right? Not to get overly greedy or, anything like that. It is the fact that we are entering this massive area of supply that, like I just mentioned, huge support before, definitely some decent resistance before, and now in theory it will be once again resistance, right? But the good news on NVIDIA, and there's definitely some good news that can potentially signal that it maybe wants to finally blast through this and maybe head even higher, closer to the 123 region. Remember that level, 123, pretty important one. So signs that are telling me that maybe, maybe it does want to go a little bit higher, maybe it will blast through this resistance zone, is the fact that the BX trender making nice higher lows, right? Green trend line essentially down all the way over here, which is nice to see, right? We have one of my favorite indicators, finally, a bullish crossover on the stochastic, very nice to see as well, right? We could get a little bit of a drawdown. Maybe tomorrow we can get a drawdown closer to the 21 EMA, closer to 114, 115. That is a possibility, but I mean, beautiful crossover on the daily. Stochastic looking pretty solid. RSI crossing the yellow line, RSI crossing the yellow line, looking pretty good. The only thing that still has some work to do is the MACD. Still making higher lows, but definitely no bullish crossover on the MACD just yet, compared to something like AMD that did get all those features I just mentioned on NVIDIA, but it also has the AMD crossover, or the MACD crossover on AMD today as well, right? So that's why AMD to me is looking actually a little bit better than NVIDIA, even though it's only up 5%. I mean, only 5% compared to 8% on NVIDIA, which is phenomenal. But it is also closing above the 21 EMA. This is a very important level, right? 21 EMA has been important for NVIDIA for quite some time, right? Especially recently, right? Every time it's been above it, it's done pretty darn well. Every time it's been below it and turned it back into resistance, it's been selling off. And that's kind of what happened post earnings. We went below it, couldn't get back above it 2 days in a row, and then we had that massive sell-off almost down to $100 per share, right? And we talked about how there is a possibility of moving back down to $100 to $97 per share. That was definitely in the cards as long as we were below 210. Obviously, we're above it, and we're above the 21 EMA. So pretty much the way I look at it is this. The ideal scenario for the bulls is potentially coming back down ever so slightly to the 21 EMA, retesting that, truly turning that back into support, showcasing that this move up wasn't just, a bull trap, right? Because there is still a chance that we just go back below the 21 EMA, maybe tomorrow or Friday, right? And this ends up just being a massive bull trap. That is a possibility. What I want to see is I want to see continued closures above the 21 EMA on the daily chart. I don't want to see it just close right back below it the next day or the day after. I want to see it turn it back into a strong support. If we can see that, I think NVIDIA is looking pretty damn primed to at the very least come back up to 120s, if not probably 123, if not all the way back to the top of this kind of tight little wedge that we're setting up over here, which will be closer to 126, we'll say roughly. Right, you can see this little tight wedge that we're setting up, right? That's kind of what I will see happening for NVIDIA. So that's why it's like, we are above the 21 EMA. That is bullish. That usually means good things for NVIDIA, right? More often than not, every time it's done that, it's crossed back above it. You can see, like, for instance, all the way over here, right? We were below it, right? Kind of showed some rejection around it, couldn't get back above it, gapped up above it, turned it back into support, and we continued moving up. So I kind of want to see something like this happen for NVIDIA as early as tomorrow. I want to see and confirm that 21 EMA is now a support, especially with all these indicators flipping bullish. Just left, all that's left is the MACD. It's not looking bad at all. It's looking like it wants to turn this back into support and it wants to move higher, but we just need a little bit more confirmation, or just coming back to 21 EMA and turning it back into support. So that's just, I don't know, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but that's just kind of the main things I am personally eyeballing for NVIDIA right now. It's looking pretty damn good, but you know, if there's a place to show some signs of slowdown, some signs of rejection, this 117 to 120 region is that region. Above it, we see 123. Above that, we see closer to 126 to 127. I mean, if we break above, you know, this top resistance line, which, you know, we'll go over that if it actually does happen, you know, we'll revisit that. We'll continue talking about that moving forward. But if we do break above this, I do believe that at the very least, a retest of all-time highs is in play. But again, we'll talk about it when and if it actually does happen. Too early to say for sure, of course. But all in all, that's what I'm seeing for NVIDIA. Let's take a look at options flow very quickly. In terms of options flow, NVIDIA, nowhere really to be found, surprisingly, right? I'm assuming a lot of the options flow calls that were coming in for NVIDIA, you can see a lot of calls come in. I'm assuming most of them were closed. At least that's my assumption, because I don't see anything on the confirmed flow. There was a lot of bullish flow that came in for NVIDIA the past few days, but the fact that it's nowhere near here on the confirmed bullish flow, to me, I mean, you see AMD here, but I don't really see NVIDIA anywhere. So again, what that tells me is the fact that I'm assuming, this is all assumptions, that the bulls have or are mostly taking profit on obviously a phenomenal 8% rally. So we'll see. Don't forget, we do have PPI tomorrow, so that can definitely still change things quite a bit. This could still technically make this a bull trap, right? That is the possibility with PPI coming in tomorrow. But one thing I want to talk about really quickly is what happened with this breakout and why this breakout did occur on NVIDIA this morning, right? So we had some really, like, just very unusual price action this morning, right? We had a massive pump up to almost 112, and then we pretty much sold it all off. Closed the doji candle pretty much right at the neckline of that inverted head and shoulders I was talking about, right? Which is about 109.5. And then we sold off pretty aggressively all the way down to 107 pretty much. And then we bought that all back, closed the doji candle at pretty much the exact same level as the previous 1 hour. So we have two massive doji candles that are like essentially opposites, one with selling pressure, one with buying pressure. That was just very, very unusual price action, but we consistently kept holding this 109.5-ish region, this kind of green trend line that, you know, was essentially the neckline for that inverted head and shoulders pattern that we talked about before, right? Of course, you know, you can see here, I mentioned it before on, I think, Monday's video, right? Boom, boom, boom. And we followed through, and it followed through. I'm not gonna lie, I did get stopped out on this, which I'm a little bit sad, and that's why I want to take my nap, because I assumed that maybe, you know, maybe it's not time just yet. Maybe we'll just go sideways for a bit. I wake up and we're at 112. You know, it is what it is. Sometimes you just miss them. You can't hit every single trade. It is what it is. Some of them you just miss. It is what it is. But to keep, you know, things into perspective, right? The stochastic on the 1 hour, very much now overbought. If we get this crossover to the downside, we could start getting a little bit of a retrace, right? Maybe back to that 21 EMA, for instance. Or if we lose the 21 EMA, I think at the very least, it'll come back down to get like a true 1 hour retest back to this 110 to 109-ish region, right? Now, let's just say that does happen. Let's say we do lose the 21 EMA. Let's say the PPI, I don't know, maybe PPI gaps us below or whatever the reason may be, right? And the market sells off tomorrow, just as an example, theoretical example. One thing I can see happening on NVIDIA is actually setting up a bullish pattern here. And the bullish pattern will be this cup and handle pattern potentially, right? So we have this move that we had over here. Cup and handle is a bottoming pattern, right? It happens in a downtrend, which NVIDIA is short-term in, even after today's move, right? And you have this rounding pattern right here. It could be just a rounding top, and then we just break above this, and it's great, good to go. That's a possibility. But ideally, what I'd want to see is something like this, right? We have the cup. Now we set up the handle, which essentially would just be a bull flag, ultimately come back down to this region of about 110, let's say roughly 109.5, around there, right? Retest this breakout and then move higher. That would be the most ideal scenario for me, right? This would also reset the 1 hour stochastic, and the stock would kind of reset this, you know, very overbought short-term conditions it is in. For instance, if I bring out the bands regression, you can see extremely overbought, right? Short-term, of course, short-term. Which again, this kind of stuff can change within a day or two, right? Just keep that in mind. This is very short term. This is like literally a day or two of overbought conditions, right? Obviously, the daily is definitely not overbought. The daily still has some work to do, right? It's pretty much reset the stock. Like it went into oversold conditions, and now it's reset back to the median. Just a classic reset. Overbought over here, came back to reset. Now it's oversold, came back to reset. The white line, 23-day moving average. Very classic stuff. But that's kind of what I'm seeing with NVIDIA moving forward. So yeah, with all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one as per usual. Peace.